when you have a guide, and say for instance, like you said, like with yourself, that you have your father as your guide, then when does he sort of then move on? When does he sort of like go through that period and says, right, okay, I feel complete now and I'm going to go on with my life and like reincarnate and stuff like that? And when, you know, when does that happen? How's that possible? And I've had this conversation a few times now. Okay, thank you. They just said, they just said, because as humans as we are, we see the world as we see the world. We know, like, this is the blanket behind me that I've got up on the wall and everything. We see the world in a certain way, sort of the very 3D sort of sense of the world. That's how we see it, because we've been instructed from the moment we are created and placed on this earth, that we've been told what certain things are around us by the people that are in our life. And so we, you know, thank you. And they said with children, they daydream, they have the imaginary friends and everything. Well, a lot of the imaginary friends aren't imaginary at all, that they are spirit and loved ones that are with them at the dinner table, or they're making tea with them or whatever. They can see what we can't see as adults, because they haven't got to that stage until their parents might try and say, oh no, there's no such thing as imaginary friends and stuff like that, you know. So this is what happens. So through the human brain, okay, thank you. Now, okay, thank you. What they're showing me, they're giving me now the imagery of the human brain. And as they're doing that, they're sort of turning it around as they're doing it. Okay, a bit like the Rubik's Cube, they sort of said. So it's changing as it's moving around. They're sort of showing me and stuff. And what they're showing me is that we've only been ever sort of shown to some degree how life is. It's like a very 3D flat image. Okay, thank you. And what they're showing me is that the brain and also how we interpret the world is changing. Okay, thank you. They said with the knowledge that we receive for our own personal development, what we are growing, what we are learning is expanding our mind, and we're starting to understand, thank you, like metaphysics and everything. The paintball, you know, watching the paintball, the strip going through that. Okay, thank you. When we observe life, it's very, very different. When we observe life, it's very, very different. We start to see things in a very different way. So it's how we have observed life up until where we are here. It is the disbelief in a certain degree that when we're told that you have a guide, that we're thinking that the guide is also like 3D, but they're not. They're moving in and out. So they transition, they go through the whole soul process. Also, your guides change. So your guides are your guides, your loved ones, have traveled through many lifetimes with you in your soul pod, those family members. They've traveled with you so many times in the lifetimes with you, and they change. Their relationship they have with you changes. They may not be the father that you had in a previous lifetime. There might be a father in this lifetime, but there might have been a mother to you, or a brother, or whatever, or a sister, whatever the gender is irrelevant. But as they are changing, as they are transforming, they're learning about themselves from a soul level. And as they're coming now that your father is one of your guides, that he does the work with you as you are where you're at in yourself. But as your personal journey changes and shifts, there's going to be another guide that steps in, and your father may step to one side a little bit because you're working in a different energy stream, you're working in a different energy level. So for him personally, when I've done readings with people, I've had someone who sat in front of me and I'm telling them about, I had one the other day about their son. Their son has stepped forward and their son is by their side now. And then she said to me, oh, I thought he would have moved on by now. No, her son died when he was just a baby. And so this is like 30 something years ago. I said, there's part of him that is stepping forward and he's a guide for you. He's that age, and he's also the age when he passed over, but he's also this age in spirit where he's grown, but he's also gone on to do other bits and pieces, other work. So to give her the confirmation for that, I can't remember the job that he did, but his future self, which is no such thing in really as in past, we have the present and the future, because we're looking at it from the human point of view. I'm doing a bad job, I know. Don't tell me off, I know. So I'll explain. Okay. So I'm using an example. This is us here right now, planet Earth, 3D world. We see ourselves externally. We don't realize there's many parts to us. We just think that's us, that's here. Now, if we think of our relationships that we have. The relationship that I have with my mother is very different than I'd have with my father, very different from how I have with my daughter, very different from how I have with my son, very different from my lover, very different from my sister, very different from my brother, very different from my clients, very different from my friends. If we look at ourselves just as we are here, the difference is that we are with each individual. But we're still that person, but there's many sides to us. Okay, thinking, they say, why cannot the human, not you having to dig at you, why cannot the human in general understand that even the interaction as you are here on this planet, you're having different relationships and you feel different. Even in one day, even in 10 minutes, you can feel different depending on what's triggered you off, depending on what's going on in your world. So we become triggered, and there's parts of us, we can think of the past and we can think of us here, and we could also project into the future. So it's the same thing as the soul. When the soul passes over, the soul can be on, well, the guide for someone who's living on planet Earth, and they can also be elsewhere, being reincarnated into the next part of their life. So I told my client something about her son, that he's now I can't remember what he was doing now, some sort of job, and she said, oh, he loves that sort of stuff. He's always loved that from a kid, because he was very, very young when he died. But it was confirmation for her that it was him. So his soul had moved on and he was going somewhere else, but it was also by her side as a guide for 30 years after he passed over. He was still able to be by her side. So with yourself, with your father, he can be anywhere he wants to be. It is a bit like the smoke, they said, like the incense stick, being aware of them around you, but also being elsewhere. There's so many different dimensions in time and space. When I do remote viewing and go work on a case, for instance, I worked on a case that was, we're just going to say the desert, and I found where those individuals were taken hostage a couple of years ago, and I could see where they'd been shot and everything, and I could see where they'd been buried. I didn't fly to the country. I was using remote viewing, so there's part of my energy, and a bit like when we astral travel as well. So our souls actually can move in and out all over the place. I think they just said it's a bit like when we daydreaming, or when you're in love and you imagine what it's like to be with that person, or you imagine that job, or imagine a new home, or whatever, we are still able to move in and out on a soul level. We're looking at that from an energy point of view. So it's the same thing. So I can think they say, so with the example with your father, he will be with you now because he knows he wants to be with you. That's really important. He wants to protect you, support you, keep you safe, help you, to guide you, but he's also living another existence somewhere else. And then as your energy changes, as you do the work on yourself, then he'll go, okay, she doesn't need me so much. I mean, my grandfather and grandmother, they came forward, 20 something years ago to help me when I first started being a medium. They come in every so often, but they're like, yeah, no, we can't really help you on this now because we know you know this. We need to bring somebody else in. So it's sort of like different grades of that, where they're at in themselves, and they know what work I might need. They can't help me on a murder case. I haven't got a clue. They can't help me find that cat that's disappeared. They can't help me, whatever. They know they come in on certain things. So I use them as, if I lose my keys, Nan, Granddad, come on, I need my keys. Or recently, my granddad was very financially savvy, and I sort of asked him recently about putting an offer on a house. My granddad came straight in with a figure, and I'm like, okay, I'll give it a go. He used to gamble. He was really good at it, and he was very psychic. So I was like, come on, granddad, he'll come in. Affairs for the heart, I asked my nan, she's always there, she helps me. So different guides go through different stages with us. They never leave us, they're always there. And it's only through grief do we create a boundary, because the grief is our mind acknowledging that person isn't physically with us. And so our mind goes, right, no, I can't hear them, I shut them off. But they're always with us, always, always, always. I hope I answered that question. It's crazy, isn't it? Because they're part of the essence of your soul that will be elsewhere, helping them on a different level. The different part of Julia wouldn't be called Julia, but it will be the different part of you that will be elsewhere that was helping the individual. So it's like, like karmic lifetimes, ancestral links. If we think of relatives, when I've done work with individuals that have had something's going on to them, I might sit in front of them and say, oh, okay, there was a rape that went on ancestrally all the way back, so ancestry bloodline. But I've got all the relatives that have coming forward, and I can feel the what's happened in that lifetime, because the person that's sitting in front of me, it's almost like their DNA energetically has picked it up and it's also bring it forward in this lifetime. It's like a little frequency, a ripple that follows them. Now, the work that I've done with individuals, they heal whatever's going on for them, and that's been a repeating pattern from the women in their family, and it goes back. So the healing they received goes all the way back to their ancestral bloodline as well. So it's crazy how it works, and it's absolutely amazing. So any ripple effects in your energy field could be coming from ancestral, and then whatever work you do and stuff goes all the way back. So yeah, it's crazy, but I love it how it works. It's just so, yeah. Anyway, I hope that helps.